Hi, I'm Harjeet. Welcome to Girls Talk. This week I'm excited to be talking to Shreya Patel. She hails from a background of fashion and she's been to India to pursue her career in fashion. Since then, she's returned back to Canada. She's focusing on filmmaking. She makes documentaries. She's also acting. And on top of all that, she's an advocate for mental health. Hi Shreya.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for being here and coming to talk to us, to tell us about what you do.
Absolutely.
One of the things I didn't mention in her introduction is she's also just worked on a documentary that will talk about human trafficking. So we are going to go into detail on that, and I am going to ask her lots of questions about that. So let's start, Shreya. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background on yourself?
So basically, I was always interested in fashion since I was 6 years old. So that's what I pursued. I ended up going to India after my first year university, actually. Went for 2 months, ended up staying there for 3.5 years. And I guess I got lucky because I ended up meeting someone from the fashion industry in like 5 days of being in India. So I think it was destiny. So I ended up working with like people from like Lakme Fashion Week, Miss India, Vogue India, Dubai Fashion Week. And then from there, I got into modeling. So then that was traveling around like Asia, like all around India, Dubai, Thailand. And something happened to me there. So I was working with Make-A-Wish Foundation in Canada when I was a teenager. And then when I was in India, I was working with Make-A-Wish Foundation there as well. So over here, when you go to the hospitals, there are kids who want they have dreams like, oh, I want to go to Disney World. And we fulfill them. But in India, in the hospitals, I went to the government hospitals and I have never seen anything like that in my life, because there's a vast difference between like a really good private hospital and a government hospital. And there were parents outside that were waiting for their terminally ill kids for about 8 days to be treated. And there was just this one huge room where there were a bunch of different beds, and there were just kids that were just ill. And it kind of like really broke my heart, and it just made me realize that like people need to do something. Like there needs to be a voice given to voiceless people. And I think that's when my career switch happened, and I was like, I'm gonna go pursue documentary filmmaking. I want to go tell stories. So then I came back to Canada and did my postgrad, and now I'm here making documentaries.
Making a difference, which is what we like.
Yes.
So let's go back to the story. So you went to India, you came back to Canada. So does that mean you were born in Canada?
No, so I was born in India. My mom's first delivery, that's why she went back to India. But basically, I grew up in Qatar, which is in the Middle East. So I was there all my life until I was 11. And then I moved to Sarnia. Sarnia, Ontario is a place near London. It's a border of US and Canada that a lot of people don't know where it is. But it's in Canada.
Yeah, it's quite far from any airports,
Yeah.
from any major roads. It's probably a flight away from the GTA. I don't know. Maybe it's like a long drive.
It's a 3.5-hour drive.
Yeah, so it's quite a distance.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about Sarnia from like what we were talking about before and what I know in general. There aren't many South Asian faces there. So when you went from India to Qatar, where you were surrounded mostly by South Asians, to Sarnia, where you were probably the only South Asian face, what kind of obstacles did you face?
So when I first moved to Sarnia, I didn't even realize what racism was, because I never dealt with that in Qatar, because there's so much diverse kind of people in Qatar, not just South Asians, but like vast variety of people, just like how Toronto is. But when I got to Sarnia, my first, I think I was in grade 6 when that happened, it was different because there was a lot of racism that I faced. There were people that would just bully me for how I looked, how I talked. I obviously had an accent coming from like Qatar, the way I dressed, my hair, I had glasses. And I'm like, I want to be in fashion. And they all used to make fun of me. And I had this time when I used to go behind the school building and sit there by myself during lunch breaks, because I just did not have any friends. So that was how my first year went, and I just did not like Canada at all. But since like the years went past, I guess I made good friends, and I guess Sarnia is home now. And it's cool because we had a 10-year elementary school reunion where I got to confront the people that bullied me, which is kind of interesting because I was in the fashion industry 10 years from that time. So it was kind of cool to like talk to them and like, you know, get my closure, I guess. But it was cool, yeah.
Well, it is nice to get your closure because a lot of people, they don't get that opportunity, or even if they are faced with a bully from childhood, it doesn't go as they would have planned.
Yeah.
So closure is always good. Talking about Sania and going to school and being exposed to bullying and stuff, did that work on your confidence? Did it make you feel like you didn't want to pursue what you want to pursue? And
so for me, it definitely worked on my confidence because I didn't know who I was. Like the massive identity crisis, because my parents, especially my mom, she's trying to fit into the culture. She doesn't know, you know, what's going on. And then same here, like I'm also trying to fit into the culture. I have no idea what's going on. So me and her used to clash a lot. Growing up now, we are very, very, very close. But going to school, getting bullied, confidence issues. When you get home, there's always that fight, like, oh, you know, why are you hanging out with this person? What are you doing? You know, all that jazz. But with my dreams, I don't think it ever affected me to follow my, I don't think I'd ever like took my confidence away to follow fashion. It was just about confidence and self-esteem within myself. But when I was 16, I believe, I won Miss Teen Sarnia, and then I ended up going to Miss Teen Canada. So I kind of got my confidence back in that kind of way, in a pageantry way, I guess. So that was a good flip from being like having no self-esteem and no confidence to getting all my confidence back and following what I want to do with like all the faith in myself.
Yeah, that's quite a crazy story. At 16, Miss Teen Sarnia, and there aren't any South Asians. So I mean, that's quite an achievement to be a South Asian representation of a place that doesn't have many South Asians.
Yeah.
So, because I do know what that feeling is like, where people don't know what South Asian is, and when you're raised to be in a world where you don't judge people by skin color or anything, it does make for a difficult environment because you're not prepared for it. But did you find when you moved from Sarnia out to Toronto, because there's more diversity in Toronto, did you find that you faced any obstacles being a South Asian girl specifically?
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
I don't think I faced anything here as anything that I faced in Sarnia. I just felt like I had more opportunities here. And my focus was always like fashion and like dancing and all that. So when I came to Toronto, I felt like I was a free bird away from everything. So yeah.
So now I want to change the topic slightly. And hopefully we're going to have more time later so that I can get to know you a little bit more on a personal level too. But I am very interested in learning more about this human trafficking that you have been working on. So can you tell us a little bit about what projects you're working on in human trafficking, what you intend to work on, and just give us a little bit of a history on that?
So I was in a documentary postgraduate program, and I wanted to tell stories, and I wanted to do it on maybe investigatives or something that affects the community in a way. And I had no idea that what was human trafficking in Canada. So basically human trafficking is basically a practice where you force someone into labor or sexual exploitation. So I had no idea that was the case in Toronto. We all know that human trafficking happens in international levels, like where people kidnap young kids, even older, any age or race, and they smuggle them into a different country and sell them. Domestic human trafficking is something I learned through my documentary while I was researching it, where our own Canadians sell our own Canadian people into labor or sex trade. So the way I got into the documentary, the way I made the documentary was I actually contacted a lot of support services, and I kind of wanted to do it on either convicts who have been committed of a crime and now they're coming back to the community, or sex workers who have left their sex work and are coming back to the community and have the community perceive them. But while doing this research, I ended up meeting this girl who is in my documentary who was in the sex trade. So I was like, okay, so I can do her story. But when she was actually telling me her story, I realized that she was part of domestic human trafficking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's quite touching.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to meet people that were involved in that on all different levels. Mm-hmm. Did you find that it was eye-opening for you?
Extremely eye-opening, because it happens in our country so much, but no one talks about it, or no one even knows about it. It happens to any. The human trafficking is domestic human trafficking is basically, it doesn't discriminate against any age, race, like caste. It happens to anyone, and it happens a lot. I remember meeting Lori Scott, who is also in my documentary. She's an MP who just helped pass the human trafficking bill last year in 2017 in May. She spoke to me about how 90% of them are our Canadian-born kids who are forced into sex trade by Canadian people. Like, how scary is that number?
Yeah, you know, because when people hear stories like that, they would think that it happens more in third world countries where people don't have educations, but it can happen anywhere. Yeah. And it's great to be involved in such a project and to open people's eyes up about it. So I do want to get back to talking about this documentary and all the other things that you're working on with human trafficking right when we get back from the break.
Are you looking for someone who can turn your dreams into reality? Whether it's real estate buying, selling or investment, Wasiuddin is the first choice of clients because no client or project is big or small for him. With years of experience, Wasi also offering exclusive deals on pre-construction projects and helping hundreds of clients to make their dream come true. So call Wasi at 416-566-3642 or log on to homesbywasi.com.
चॉकलेट चिप कुकी
अली
सिर्फ कुकी दूंगा, चॉकलेट चिप नहीं दूंगा। इसमें तो बहुत सारे चॉकलेट चिप हैं। एक सेकंड देता हूँ, अभी भी बहुत है।
अब अली बेचारा क्या करे जब नए बिस्कॉली चॉकलेट चिप कुकी में है बहुत ज्यादा चॉकलेट चिप्स, ऊपर भी चॉकलेट, अंदर भी चॉकलेट।
आपकी कुकी
बिस्कॉली चॉकलेट चिप कुकीज बहुत 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 चॉकलेटी।
हर खुशी बिस्कॉनी।
This is the world of internet. You have everything on your computer and mobile screen. If you wish to promote your business through internet, especially to perfect target market, then you have just one reliable name, NJ Marketing, offering various marketing solutions like social media marketing, telemarketing, email marketing, search engine optimization, graphic designing, web designing and development, and mobile application development. So call now at 647-824-1485 or email at njmarketing15@gmail.com or log on to njmarketing.ca.
An exclusive multi-designer studio specialized in wedding planning services, bridal wear, casual party wear, jewelry, shoes, purses, dupattas, men's and kids' clothes. You name it, we have it. Some of the Pakistani designer labels we carry are Semi-K, Aga Noor, Sana Safinaz, Anas Abrar, Zainab Chutani, Wahaj Khan, Fatma Khan, and many more. Parahan, sheer elegance. We believe in quality service and best price.
You can contact 9075 Teddy Road West, Unit Number 1, Milton, Ontario.
Hi, this is your host Harjeet with Girls Talk, and just before the break I was discussing a documentary that Shreya Patel, my guest, is working on in regards to human trafficking. So back to what we were talking about before the break, we didn't discuss the statistics. Are you familiar with any statistics? You said there's a lot of Canadians that are involved in this trade. Are they just Canadians, like Caucasian Canadians, or are they multicultural immigrants as well?
It's any kind of, it doesn't discriminate against any race or any age or anything, so it could not just be Caucasian, it could be South Asians even, who are pushing our South Asian Canadian kids into this industry. I'm talking about kids because that's what I know of. I know that last year there was a bust that happened in London, Ontario, which is a hub of human trafficking. It's kind of shocking, but there were some women that were caught from ages 17 to 64 last year. So they were rescued. So it can happen to anyone at any age, and it does. The pimp or the John doesn't necessarily have to be Caucasian. It is just a wide range of people who are Canadian.
And from my knowledge of human trafficking, I have seen that a lot of online predators can coerce people to talk to them online, meet them, make them fall in love, do anything, and then it's before they know it, they don't have a say in what they're doing, and they're cut off from the rest of the world and taken into that trade. Is there anything that parents can do to protect their children? What precautions can they take?
So what you just described is exactly how domestic human trafficking works.
Okay.
It is the way that predators use people to get into the industry, may it be boys or girls or women or men. They find vulnerabilities in that person, and then they offer that to them to lure them into their life and be like, oh, I'm your boyfriend, or I'm your girlfriend, I guess. And they lure them into this industry, and once you get in it, it's like, hey, like I'm the only one working, why don't you start working too? We don't have any money, like why don't you get into the sex trade? It's just part-time, you don't have to do it all the time. Once they get in it, then there's the emotional abuse that starts, and from there physical abuse starts. So now we're in this vicious cycle of emotional and physical abuse and threats and all that. So it goes in a downward spiral. What parents can do is control, I can't say this enough, but like control their social medias and what they're putting out there, because there are even people my age that are putting way too much out there on their Instagram stories and their Snapchats and telling people where they are and what they're doing. It is so dangerous. Even if it's not just human trafficking in general, it is the most dangerous thing that you could do out there. So parents, I think number one thing is to talk to your kids about what human trafficking is. I know it kind of gets like a little weird talking about your kids about like safe sex and stuff at a very early age, but another stats that I found out at a human trafficking conference that happened on March 10th in Sarnia was most of the human trafficking victims are girls who are aged 12 to 14. So if you, like, I think parents should talk to their kids about what human trafficking is, what safe sex is, and you could save them in that sense and educate them, and also explain them that social media is a bit of a dangerous place. You should not be putting everything out there, because there could be predators out there looking at your kids and finding their vulnerabilities, because they're so young to put anything out there. I'm sad, I want candy, like anything, you know. So I think that's the way that parents could save their kids.
Yeah, there are so many stories that I've heard about the social media and, you know, people not being aware of the dangers of social media. I just find, based on what you said, being South Asian, even though we do live in Canada, there is still a little bit closed. I don't think it's closed minds, but people don't actually talk openly about the dangers that are out there. So is there anything that you can say to South Asians specifically on how to discuss this with your children?
I think having an open conversation is the most important thing. I know it's vague or doesn't answer your question properly, but with me and how my parents are raised, especially my mom, she obviously wasn't aware of domestic human trafficking. Even I wasn't aware. Like, we all got aware through the documentary, but they have always been open to me about different things, like even talking about like safe sex. In a way, it was kind of like an awkward conversation, like, you're going to sex ed, right? Like, or like talking about PMS and like all these things. And it is important that your mom discusses that with your daughter, or your dad discusses that with your son, if it doesn't happen, like, you know, in like different ways. But I think it's just important to have that open conversation, even if it's awkward.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you on that, because it is a part of life. I mean, we can't stop girls from, you know, having PMS or anything like that. And there's things in society that are happening that are out of our control. And the best thing we can do for our children is to make them aware of the dangers. And as parents, be as knowledgeable as we can so that we can protect them. I know that I have seen a lot of social media experiments where predators pretend, like, not predators, but people go online and pretend that there's somebody to get the predators lured in. And it's interesting what I've seen and learned from that. So, you know, talking about this is quite interesting.
Yeah.
When your documentary does come out, Is it going to be just on YouTube, or are there going to be other outlets where we can watch it?
So for now, I honestly made it for educational purposes because I wanted to tell the story. I actually directed, edited, name it, everything I did on this documentary by myself. It's kind of crazy. But it was showcased at a Human Trafficking conference on March 10th, and then it's getting showcased again on May 3rd with another community screening. So it's going to be showcased to 50 women that are of minority. And then the same day in the evening, there's a youth, like girls, like they have like a youth group thing. It's going to be showcased there to women, to girls that are like at risk as well. So which is cool. I kind of want to take this documentary and showcase it as much as I can in the communities where women can watch it and feel inspired, even though there is like the girl went through something dangerous, but she came out of it in a very positive way. And hopefully, if I could, I would love to submit it to like film festivals, but that's not my main goal at the moment. And once after this year is done, then I'll put it up on YouTube or Vimeo and share the link.
That would be amazing. I mean, I would definitely be interested in seeing that. It would definitely be eye-opening for me too, because there's not much out there that I'm exposed to. And I only learn about it through talking, or just like, you know, it'll pop up somewhere, and you just kind of learn like that. So this is very interesting that it's going to come out. I have one last question on this topic.
Yeah.
When you talked about the girl that you had met who is featured in your documentary that had gone through this whole experience, which is obviously very traumatic, and because of how they're lured in, you know, they're made to believe that somebody loves them. Do they find it hard to talk about it? Do they feel like they're to blame? And how did you find, from your experience of meeting somebody that went through that, how she was? Was she very open about it? Was she very closed off, reserved?
I am very lucky with the girl I met. Her name is Emily. She has been so articulate. She is, and she's very young too. She has been amazing. And I think when I met her, she was just coming out of it. It was just 2 years out of the sex trade. And she does have PTSD. She does have depression. So she goes in and out. So she'll meet me one day and then disappear for months. And it was a bit difficult initially, but she was open with me, because when I met her, I'm like, it's a documentary, I need you to be open, it's just gonna be me and you, and kind of like helped her be in ease. I got lucky, but it's not always the case. She still suffers from PTSD and stuff like that, but she has 3 degrees under her belt. That girl went to school. She's actually just finished in this April, I guess, just 2-3 days ago. She was studying to be, I think, a youth advocate. And right before that, she studied to be a social worker. And right before that, she was doing culinary school. So she's helping girls who have been like survivors now to come out of it.
That's amazing. I do find that when you are a victim of something, most people, they generally want to help people, future generations, not become a victim again. Yeah. And that is so inspirational, and it's so aspirational at the same time. So I'm glad that you shared all that information with us. So yeah, I'm glad you shared all that information with us, because recently there's been light on rapes in Pakistan too, and there's many rapes that they talk about in India too, and it's happening, and it's not far off from human trafficking either, because you don't know what the end result is going to be. So it is very important, whatever your skin color, whatever your race, whatever your gender, that you do open your eyes, and hopefully you will look into Shreya Patel to watch her documentary. But now I want to take it off on a serious note and get to know Shreya on a little bit more of a personal level in the little bit of time that we have left. So Shreya, tell me, how do you find it living in Canada versus the Middle East?
I love living in Canada. It's been a while. I mean, I grew up in Qatar till I was 11, but all I known of like life is Canada. That's all I relate my life to be. But I love living in Toronto. It's such a diverse like country. There's so much to do, so many opportunities, amazing people, amazing community. I don't think I would want to move back anywhere else.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
Do you I mean, I'm going to guess that you like being a girl, but can I ask you what your favorite thing about being a girl is?
I think being just a woman is just so incredible, because our bodies are capable of doing so much. Like we're such nurturers. we have our bodies are capable of creating life. I mean, that is so incredible in itself. And like my friend who just became pregnant recently, she was telling me how like the body forms milk, and it only forms when it knows that the baby wants food. I had no idea. Like, that is so incredible. Like, as women, we have so much power within ourselves, which we sometimes don't realize. And I think that is so incredible, just being a girl.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It is quite fascinating how our bodies change and develop over time. So talking about that, because women they're so different to men, do you find with the whole women empowerment initiatives that there are, do you find that there's more equality with men and women these days compared to generations back?
I think more and more women and men are realizing that there needs to be equality. Previously it was like, oh, we have Women's March, but that was just one day, and then things go back to where it was. But things are really changing now. People are taking into notice, and even like Women's March recently that happened, there were men there too. They were supporting. I think it's a slow change and a gradual change, but I definitely noticed that it is happening, and we're going towards something better, especially for the future.
I'm glad that you see that. I mean, I will. I hope so too. Yeah. I sometimes find that women empowerment goes to the next level, and then it becomes like men aren't as empowered as they are. So then it's kind of like an off balance. So I'm hoping for equality, where men and women can be equal and appreciate the strengths that they both have to offer each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Sorry. I feel like even now recently, that I saw one of the actors, I forgot his name, but he started doing these documentaries about, it's called Man Enough, where like he sits with all these bunch of actors and spoken word artists and stuff, and he talks about what is it to be a man. And he's like, why are we not vulnerable? Why are we told to be like, hey, be a man? What does that even mean? And because they're not in touch with their feelings, like they spiral downwards and they don't talk much. And like, in that sense, things are changing, because a lot more men are talking about being more vulnerable, while women are like fighting for equality in workplaces. And I think slowly and gradually, in that sense, it's like changing, and we're coming back being equal.
And they'll meet in the middle, and everything will be resolved. And that's
I wish and I hope.
That actually ties into the other thing you do, which is being an advocate for mental health. Because I did used to read a lot of articles about men when they were children. Because they couldn't be men, because they're not allowed to have feelings, that doesn't equate to being a man, that they would be prone to suffering from depression and other mental illnesses versus women. Whether the stats have changed, I'm sure they have, but it was interesting to learn that.
Yeah.
I think I have time for a couple more questions. I want to ask you what your favorite thing was about when you were a child.
I think the most favorite thing about being a child was just being free and not having to think about anything at all. Like, there were no problems in the world. Life was all about candies and like living in this bubble. No responsibilities, just like being free and being crazy and not having anyone to tell you what to do, and like, I don't know, just not having to pay bills.
Oh, the bills, the never-ending cycle.
Being an adult, I don't understand it. I sometimes still feel like I'm 12. And then my phone bill comes in, my rent bill comes in, all that. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm an adult now.
Welcome to adulthood, Shreya.
I know, right? Damn it.
So on a final note, before we go, the incredible woman that you are today, I want to know, what is the best piece of advice that your parents gave you that puts you here today and puts you in a position where you've achieved all of these amazing things?
I think the best piece of advice that my parents gave me, and I would like to tell you guys, is be happy. I know it's so vague, but that has helped me through everything. Like, my mom and my dad, literally every single day, it's like, don't do things that don't make you happy. Like, I had one really like not that great of a job, and I was like really stressed out all the time, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, this has never happened to me before. My parents were like, are you happy today? No. Then quit. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I was like, that's fine, you'll figure it out. YOLO. So I think the best piece of advice is do things that make you happy, follow your dreams, and just like find yourself through that.
I really admire that advice, because with a lot of motivational speakers that there are out there, they do talk about the grind, going to work and coming home, and how people make work their life. And you know, and then people are scared to break out of that cycle. And parents can sometimes not be supportive for what their children want to do. So I am thankful to your parents that they gave you that advice and they raised you so that you can work on all these things that are going to help make the world a better place. You know, the world's a big place, but the small steps that people make, they're going to get somewhere. And like you said yourself, we're going to be in a much better place years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for being on my show today, Shreya. I'm so happy that...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching Girls Talk. Stay tuned for more entertainment.